Hello everyone. Thank you for watching this video from wherever you're watching it from. My name is Samantha and this is Craig, and we are recording from the Nanaimo Brain Injury Society office, which is located in Nanaimo on Vancouver Island in British Columbia. We acknowledge the land that we're on is the traditional and unceded territory of Snuneymuxw First Nation, one of the Coast Salish peoples of the Pacific Northwest. And we're very grateful to be able to do what we do here on this land. And yeah, I'm really excited to share this video with you. Um, we're going to be talking about hearing changes today, and this is pulled from our Life After Brain Injury program. So, yeah, I would also like to thank Prince George Brain Injury Group for allowing us to use their material for this program, um, which has been based off over 20 years of research from Prince George Brain Injury Group. So, like to acknowledge that as well. And I'm trying to click my next slide here. We'll do a quick introduction before we jump into the material. Oh, here we go. Okay. This is the first time that I'm doing a recorded version of this program. So thank you for watching. Here we go. Okay. So, a little bit about myself. My name is Samantha. I'm the Group Programs Coordinator here at Nanaimo Brain Injury Society, or NBIS for short. I help out run a variety of different group programs for clients, one of them being Life After Brain Injury. And I have the pleasure of facilitating this program with one of our wonderful peer volunteers, Craig. So Craig he's also a client here at NBIS, and as of 2024, he is also a board member here. So yeah, very grateful to have you join me on this video. Craig, did you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. I've actually been a peer mentor for about 12 years. Also, to myself, I've actually had three brain injuries. So there's been a lot of things that I've learned myself that may not be in books. And this is where I'd like to share some of my tips to hopefully just make your life that much easier. Okay, thanks, Samantha.
Okay, thanks, Craig. All right. So this is what a typical kind of session structure looks like. We'll be following this pretty closely to how we run it in person. We are going to skip a couple slides just for time's sake. So we're going to skip this one and start with our opening discussion. So yeah, just to start talking about hearing changes, what that can look like after brain injury, we have a couple questions like to ask you to think about. So, such as, have you experienced hearing changes yourself? Can you think of a moment when your ability to hear impacted your life in a memorable way? So that can be positively or negatively. Sometimes it can be funny, sometimes it can be really embarrassing. So, yes, Craig, I know you have an example to share.
Before I even admitted that I had hearing difficulties, my wife and I were at a party with a group of our friends, but I got into the habit of smiling and nodding, although I wasn't hearing everything that they were saying to me. So anyhow, a few nights later, my family and I are sitting down at the kitchen table having dinner, and all of a sudden, someone's knocking at the door. So we answer it, and it was a couple of people from the party that we're at, and they said, "Yeah, we're here for the dinner you invited us to." I didn't know that they were talking about any kind of dinner at the party because I didn't hear it, but I just smiled and nodded. So that made me realize, yeah, I think I need to get this checked. So,
Right. Yeah, thanks for sharing, Craig. That's an example of something that, yeah, maybe we don't realize how much it can impact our life. But yeah, you found out in that moment for sure. Okay, so a little bit of background about hearing changes after brain injury. So as many of you know already, brain injury can cause hearing loss, but more often it tends to change your brain's perception of sound. So the ability to make sense of sound. Is often impaired after brain injury. So a common like symptom is too much sound, having like noise sensitivity, things just sound louder than they used to before injury. Um, Part of what the brain does is it filters sound and allows us to focus on what's important. Um, so after injury, sometimes this filter doesn't work as well. So if there's background noise that can blend into a conversation or kind of come in at equal volumes, and that can just be really overwhelming and unpleasant to experience. Okay. And so for this program, we have a 6R formula. So basically, whichever symptom we're covering, we follow these 6 steps when it comes to rebuilding. The first is recognize, second is reduce, retreat, relax, rethink, and rebuild. So this is kind of the heart of the program, and we'll be going through that as it applies to hearing changes today. So starting with R1, which is recognize. So yeah, really hard to manage symptoms if you aren't aware they're there. And sometimes they aren't really obvious to us. So taking the time to um, really tune in to your body and your experience can be really helpful during recovery. So recognizing some issues and how they affect you, such as you're hearing things wrong, maybe you're getting things mixed up. You could be really sensitive to even a very small amount of noise, a hard time concentrating in a conversation if there's background noise. Sometimes just feeling irritable or overwhelmed if there's more than one person talking at once. Um, and another one is a constant noise or ringing in your ears, also known as tinnitus. Um, on our little slide here, we have some examples of what tinnitus can sound like for folks. So some people have kind of like a buzzing sound, whereas others, it's more of a high-pitched hissing. It can really vary, and some people notice this once in a while, and other people it's constant. So yeah, that's another way that it can get in the way. Yes, Greg.
One thing I found is that I had to be patient with myself trying to live with this new change of not being able to heal like I did. But also, too, I had to be patient with other people because they don't know how my hearing had changed. So they thought I was still the way I was because they couldn't see any difference. But also, too, I need to let people know I do have a hearing loss so that when they're speaking to me, if they can face me and not cover their mouth when they're talking to me, but also for them to speak clearly and not too quickly. And again, if we're having trouble with that, for them to please write it down, because I tell the people, hey, what you're saying to me is important. I would like to get what you're saying. So, and again, cut
Mhm.
out any background noise that you're able to.
Right. Yeah, that's a great example, Craig. Actually, Craig has, told me a few times, it reminded me very nicely a few times to, face him while I'm talking to him, pronunciate a little bit more clearly, and that's been really helpful for me, having those reminders. Sometimes it takes a little bit of training from the people around us to just get used to a kind of what is often an automatic um, yeah type of communication. So yeah, those are some ways that we can recognize how hearing affects us. And that concludes our first R. Next one, R2 for reduce. So this is all about reducing things that make your symptoms worse. So once we realize the symptoms are there, what can we do to try to bring them down a little bit? Um, so noisy environments with lots of activities. Obviously, we can't always control the environment, like a mall or a grocery store or a party or places where that are really loud. But sometimes just limiting our time in those spaces can help. Um, yeah, planning events where there's like maybe small groups, or if there's a room where you can um, go aside for a bit of a like sensory break can be helpful. And another thing that people do a lot is headphones. So sometimes they don't have to be noise canceling, but just something over your ears to reduce the overall noise. And that can also be a good indicator to other people around you that um, you're, yeah, you might be listening to something or not really open for talking or conversation. So it kind of works both ways with headphones. Yeah, great.
I find with wearing the big headphones helps a lot because, again, like you say, it muffles, the noise, but also too, it's an indicator to other people to please don't talk to me,
Hmm.
because they know that you have it on. And I find they work great in shopping malls, grocery stores, that type of thing. Another place I find they're handy is in a theater, because in the theater it is so loud there that you
Hmm.
almost need to muffle it. So I find the headphones works that way. But the other thing too, some theaters have a little thing that you can put into your cup holder, and it's for closed caption.
Right.
So you're
Now
able to
that's
get that
cool.
while you're
I did not
watching
know
the
about
movie.
that. Yeah,
Um,
that's a good example of like wherever you're going, it doesn't hurt to ask about accessibility features. Sometimes, I don't know how long the local theater here has had that as an option, but you wouldn't have known unless you asked, basically.
I have another thing here for when you're going to a restaurant. If you know ahead of time which restaurant you're going to go to, I recommend going there at least a day before if you can. So what you want to do is to maybe ask the waitress what would be the quietest table in the restaurant and find out the number of that table. So then the next day that you're coming, whatever, you can reserve that table, but also to figure out at the table where you want to sit. I find it helps a lot if I have a wall behind me or a baffle board, because then I'm not getting the noise from that direction at me also while I'm in there. And I find most restaurants, they will turn down the music if it's too loud to converse. So the other
Yeah.
thing that I try to do too is when, again, I know the restaurant I'm going to, I try to figure out what I'm going to eat so I don't have to waste that energy on figuring out what I'm going to eat there. It can be more use my energy for conversing.
Right. That's a great example, Craig, about how brain injury symptoms often overlap and interact. So a lot of times people find their hearing symptoms ramp up when they're tired. So if you can reduce fatigue, often reducing one leads to reducing the other. And yeah, that's a really creative solution that um, isn't necessarily in the books unless you've kind of, trial and error. So I think that's really highlights the value of talking to other people with similar experiences. Thanks, Greg.
Um,
Okay, so that is R2. Talked about reducing things that make symptoms worse. And so now we're going to move right along to not symptom, R3, which is retreat. So basically, once you become overwhelmed or feel stress as a result of your hearing challenges, the recommendation is to get home, take a break as soon as possible. Um, you may need to leave a situation briefly. You may need to leave for an extended period of time. Um, so going home is usually the best in terms of bringing our nervous system back down to baseline and feeling fully relaxed. But sometimes, if that's not possible, even just stepping outside or going into a different room, um, yeah, changing the environment can do a lot to bring that feeling of overwhelm down. Um, oh, yes, go ahead, Greg.
I find in my family, we have a phrase, but they know what the phrase means. So, when I tell my family I'm full, that means stop talking to me immediately, and I'll probably need to be leaving to take a bit of a break. So, don't take offensive to me leaving or just leaving in the middle of the conversation. So, that's where I found that links with that phrase word, I'm full, to let them
Hmm.
know what's happening.
Yeah, and that's great too that you uh, communicated that with your family and friends ahead of time. So whenever you are able to give people like a heads up ahead of time, um, it's awesome. Sometimes not, depending on the situation, you might not be able to, but just, finding, moment to excuse yourself, you're not feeling well, and you're reassuring others, I'll follow up with you or I'll let you know we'll, come back to this. Um, so yeah, you're not, you want to let people know you're not running away forever, so to speak, but it's like, hey, I just need a break right now. So yeah, can be difficult to do, but highly, highly recommended because often once we notice our own overwhelm or stress is high, it's yeah, it's usually quite high or it's we've been feeling stressed for quite a while. Um, and so just giving yourself a break to kind of reset is really important for managing. Okay, so that is our third R. Moving on to our fourth R, which is relaxation. Once you've gotten a chance to remove yourself from an overwhelming situation or environment, once you've retreated somewhere, now is a chance that you're wanting to try to relax and bring your nervous system back down to more of a baseline of a more calm state. And the reason we want to, you know, these steps are so important is if we're going to move on to our last R's are kind of all about problem solving and reflection, but it's really hard to do that when you're in an activated state. So we got to try to get to a relaxed state first. Okay, go ahead.
So, what I find sometimes if I'm, say, someplace with my wife and it's not quite to where I can head home type of thing, what I'll do is I'll go sit in the car and I'll put on my big headphones and dark sunglasses to try to reduce those two things of sensory input, which then helps give my brain a little bit of a rest.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's nice giving your eyes a break too. A lot of folks with hearing sensitivities also experience vision sensitivities, and even if you don't have pronounced vision issues, sometimes just closing your eyes, it is still giving your brain a break from just you're not processing visual stimuli in that moment. So um, yeah, great example of making the best of what you have available to you at the time. Um, and so, yeah, some things we can do to relax. Um, quiet, not a lot of sensory, doing a calming activity. A lot of people find movement, whether it's walking in nature, stretching, kind of gentle movement, very calming. It could be reading, kind of, yeah, doing something that feels enjoyable to you. Um, Yeah, so not just the absence of the like kind of environmental triggers and sensations, but then filling your cup with something that is feels nice. It could be as simple as even just making a cup of tea for yourself. Sometimes the little things go a long way. So, yeah, I think that covers it for R4, and we'll move right along into R5. So R5 is our rethink and regroup phase. And this is when we've had a chance to relax. We're feeling a bit more calm, a bit more, regulated. Um, and we're, yeah, going to look at how maybe we can approach things differently in the future. Um, Kind of starting like that, like problem solving phase, because even if you've been managing symptoms for many, many years, there's always little things that you could try differently or tweak or adjust. We don't just stay the same human beings forever, so it's valuable to make reflection part of a practice, see what's still working for you and what you might want to change. So yeah, asking yourself like I said, how can I do things differently? Do you need to adjust your expectations of yourself or others? And this is a big one for a lot of people. Um, the expectations might be set to what you were able to accomplish before brain injury. And you might be kind of comparing yourself to that version of yourself, or maybe other people around you. And sometimes it's not always realistic based on how we're feeling. Um, so yeah, that can be a hard one. Um, to think about, but important for sure. Craig, yeah.
Something else too is that when you're calm, it's easier to figure out what you need to do to fix it next time. But the problem sometimes when I'm in the middle of it, I can't think of what I need to do. So when I'm calm, I put in my phone, I call it my toolbox, different things that will help me to rethink, to help me get out of what I'm in. But I'll put as many different suggestions in there that have worked for me there. So when I'm in the middle of it, I just bring up my phone, look at this. Okay, yeah, that didn't work. Oh, let's try this. So then I'm not having to waste the energy on it. And I know it's something that has worked before.
Right. That's a great way to, conserve energy. When you're kind of thinking and reflecting, if you have a list of things that you've tried before, um, or a list of ideas to reference, that can be really, really helpful. Anytime you're able to write something down or type something out, um, it's just another way of processing. So that's a great tip. Thanks, Greg. And then our third point on this slide is what tools and strategies can you use to reduce the noise that's around you in your environment? So we talked about this a little bit already, where it's like sometimes the environment, we can't control the noise of a shopping center, but you might be able to ask a restaurant to turn the music down. Worst they can say is no. And then, the headphones are a big one, as well as just planning. Um, yeah, just planning where you're going, who you're going with, kind of how many people are going to be there, and maybe limiting your time in those spaces. That being said, a lot of people find that you can kind of build up your tolerance for loud environments. Um, so in the beginning, you might not be able to be in a, group of say 10 people for more than half an hour, but if you do that consistently and regularly and with support, over time, it might be that you can hang out in a group of people for an hour before you start feeling fatigue or symptoms coming on. So, yeah, yeah, everyone's very individual that way. Go ahead, Craig.
Um, Something I found okay, for instance, when I get home from, say, a doctor's, lawyers, or some professional that I've seen, my wife will ask me what was discussed, and I'll only remember one or two things and forget the rest. So at every appointment now, whether my wife comes or not, I tell them that I have brain injury and I have problems with my memory. So I ask them if I can record the meeting on my phone. That way, when I get home, I can listen to the conversation as many times as I need to fully understand everything that was said. The other thing I do now when I see a doctor, I see them later in the day when I'm tired, which then gives the doctor a more accurate observation of what I'm like. Because before I used to always go in the morning, but well, what's wrong with you? Well, wait till you see me at the end of the day, kind of thing.
Right.
Um, Also, too, when I see a doctor, I always pre-write my questions on a sheet of paper. I hand it to him, and he just rattles off all the answers because he knows he doesn't have to explain it all because I'm recording it. So
Right.
I can get a lot more answers from a visit. Um, yeah. So the other thing too, when I'm talking to someone or in a group, I always try to have a wall or something behind me where there's not sound coming from that direction. Otherwise, it can just get so overwhelming.
Yeah. Thanks, Craig. It's great to hear, you've obviously done a lot of reflecting and rethinking and regrouping, to come to these creative solutions. Um, and yeah, so it's going to be a little different for everyone. Before we move on to R6, I want people to pay attention to the little diagram there for self-compassion. And we added this in just because this step tends to be pretty heavy when we're, reflecting on our expectations and trying to problem solve. So please remember to be kind to yourself, pay attention to how things make you feel. um, you might start to become activated in this phase where you're, feeling stressed or tense or really strong emotions. And it's totally okay to go back to R4 and, practice some relaxations, give yourself a break, um, and 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 then move back into the R5 thing. Um, yeah, so just trying to be gentle with yourself. You can take things slowly. And the also just remembering you're not the only one out there that is dealing with these type of things. Sometimes it can be really isolating to feel like you're the only person that this is happening to, or the only person that is uh, accidentally inviting people to your dinner party without knowing. But we're here to tell you that there's a lot of people that are going through the same thing or can relate in some way. So yeah, be gentle with yourself. And now we're going to go on to R6, which is our final R, which is rebuilding. And we have a few slides for R6. Starting with just knowing your limits. So, for example, if your listening span is short, you can ask others to keep the conversation short, ideally politely. Um, but if you're letting people even just, I only have a few minutes to talk, um, are you able to just let me kind of give me the gist or kind of giving people a heads up? Like Craig was saying, if people give permission, like recording a meeting so you can listen to it later in your own time, that can be really helpful. So, yeah, those are some things we kind of already touched on. Craig, Yeah, something else?
Sometimes, sometimes too, different people will take your energy so much because I'm talking so much. I had somebody, and I found that when they called, they just kept talking. So when it comes up on my phone, their name, I actually have 15 minutes come up to remind me not to spend too much time with that person. Otherwise, it's going to totally drain me.
Right. Yeah, so a reminder for yourself. Okay, we got a, shorter time limit. And I find that I find that example as an outsider a little bit funny. It usually gets a few laughs in the room because we all have that person or someone in our life that, can go on and on. So, but yeah, I think it's also an act of kindness to the other person because after 15 minutes, you're not really your best self. You're not listening fully. You might start to even build resentment, like, why do they talk so much? Those type of things. So, keeping it short can actually be beneficial, for the other person as well. Okay, what else we have here? Um, oh yeah, double checking that you heard something right. Um, that can go a really long way. Um, sometimes a little bit embarrassing, but you can just make it clear to the other person, I really want to make sure I hear this right. Um, another way that you can double check what you heard is paraphrasing. Um, so, kind of like parroting back what was said to you, especially if it's instructions. Okay, did I get this right? Step one, this, and you want this from me. Um, so that can be really helpful, and then that gives the other person an opportunity to correct you if you got something wrong. Um, Finding a quiet place to carry on a conversation with someone. So yeah, to reduce background noise, if there is an area you can go that's quieter, um, that can help a lot. And Craig kind of mentioned just where you're positioned or where you might be sitting in a space can sometimes affect how you're hearing sounds around you. So you might need to sit a little bit closer to the person. Um, Also asking people to slow down a little bit when they talk, if they could speak up a little bit. Um, yeah, sometimes it can feel a bit, um, uh, I think people have a hard time asking for these things. You don't want to come across as maybe demanding or, um, a bother, but in the long run, um, often it helps communication. It's nice for the other person to and as someone who's been the other person, I really appreciate being told how I can help be helpful. So um, yeah, those are some other tools we can use to rebuild. And Craig, you got some more to add?
Yeah, with telling the person also, you can always remind them too that, yeah, what they're saying to you is important to you. So with you
Hmm.
trying to get that,
Hmm.
then getting them to face you also, again, you're just giving them a higher priority. You don't want to miss what they're talking to you about. So you try to
Right.
make them feel
Yeah.
important.
Totally. Yeah, a sign of respect for sure. And I find most people appreciate it or are pretty good about it. You know, e- Everyone's different, so there might be people out there that you don't appreciate it or, or maybe more difficult in this way, but it doesn't hurt to ask. Um, Okay. And what else can we do? So, for example, sometimes keeping your social groups small. Um, if possible, just hanging out with one or two people at a time to reduce noise. Even just asking people if they could talk one at a time or use a quieter voice. I know in when we run this group in person, we have hand raises and for sharing and group discussion, one person at a time. And yeah, because of the sound filtering, it can be difficult when more than one person is talking. Go ahead, Greg.
I found when my kids were small that when we're sitting around the table talking, they just kind of just kept blurting everything. So we actually brought a talking stick to the table. So they had to have the stick in their hand before they could talk, but then they had to pass it on, which actually was a way to train them to wait their turn, which works
Right.
out great because both of them are fantastic communicators now.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that. Yeah, sometimes like something physical, right? To help make you as mindful because a lot of times in conversation it's automatic. We're not thinking about it. So having something that takes it out of autopilot mode can be really helpful. Um, yeah. Oh, and then also, if sometimes small background noises can be irritating without us really realizing. So it might just be like turning a fan down or moving a clock that's ticking. And sometimes those small adjustments can be enough to give our brain a break and just make things more manageable. And I believe this is our last slide on R6 on rebuilding. We're almost at the end here. Um, oh, Craig mentioned this, placing unavoidable noises behind your back. Um, it helps keep you focused on what's in front of you. Um, Listening to music or TV with a headset, um, that can be helpful for you to focus in if there's, other people in the house or whatnot. Sometimes asking other people to, watch their show with headphones on. So just kind of being creative when we're sharing space with people. And then also we talked about over the ear headphones for reducing noise, but some people, depending on the situation, wear earplugs, whether that's to bed or um, I know some people wear earplugs to concerts or where it's really, really loud. So it's so loud that even with the earplugs, you can still hear the music. And then there's also like different types of earbuds, like the loop ones in the photo there, where they are designed to muffle noise without canceling it completely. There's some cool tech options out there I've seen where headphones or earbuds focus on reducing background noise specifically. Um, how it knows what's background noise, I don't know. I don't question it, but it does exist. For the like tech people out there, that's an option too. Yeah, any other things you want to add, Craig? Go ahead.
Yeah, for those of you that have lost your hearing to where you're having to have hearing aids, there are some extra things out there that you can get. For instance, myself, I have one from my phone thing. It's called the Roger On. So I can take this, it's about that long, and I just put it on the middle of the table, and I can get everybody's voice coming in clear to my hearing aids. The other thing that does is it can be like a long distance microphone. So, for instance, let's say you're taking a class or someone's on stage. Well, you can take this and point at them, and you can hear them directly in your hearing aid without getting all the other noise coming in, also.
Wow, that's
That
really
I
cool. And
found has
that's
helped a lot.
something you've actually used in our office in groups before. I and Yeah, and you just with a disclaimer, I'm not recording you. This is a microphone, and most people are like, okay, okay, that's great. So yeah, thanks for mentioning all those options too, Craig. That's great. Um, yeah, well, that concludes today's video. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope that you found some things helpful. And please feel free to check out, we have other pre-recorded videos and workshops on the NBIS YouTube page. So if you search Nanaimo Brain Injury Society in YouTube, you will find us that way. And yeah, I think that's all for now. I hope everybody takes care and thank you.
Remember to be patient with yourself and other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Craig, for doing this with me. And we look forward to running our spring in-person session coming up soon. So hopefully we'll see folks there as well. Okay. Bye, everyone.